Hi everyone, I am back to Thursdays again today because it is no longer Patrick's Day. Hey, let me move this down a bit so that you're not staring at a big pile of black above my head. Nice to see you all again. It's been a super fast week here. I don't know about you. It feels like I blinked and the week was over. I'm having a kind of a hard time reconciling it being Thursday. But part of that was probably that it felt a little bit like catch up at the end of after last week, being away for 4 days. It was lovely. It was really nice to take a couple of days off, and we did several things that were a lot of fun. The first one being, we went out to see a concert, Tori Amos, on Patrick's Night. And we stayed in a hotel for the night rather than actually coming home. So that was fun. The first time in about 2 years in a hotel for me, over 2 years. So it felt a little bit of normal again. It did make me feel extremely old going around Cork City though, because most of the people out on Patrick's Night were kids. Like there was not many people over the age of 20, definitely not over the age of 25. So we kind of skittered our way back after the concert very quick into the hotel and said, okay, this is where we need to be. It was definitely, it's a young night out in Cork, there is no doubt about that. In case any of you are wondering, this is an older pattern that I'm wearing. It's ribosome, and it's in 2 yarns. There's Jill Makes Stuff and Daughter of a Shepherd alternating. So the yoke is side to side with short rows, and then it's picked up from there down. People know that it's one of my favorite constructions, side to side yokes with short rows, lots and lots of fun. So I've got a couple of things that I want to share with you today. The first one is the reveal of the quilted feather, because of course it was a mystery going along. Anyone who's been knitting through it and has seen all of the little hints and things going on knows what it looks like. But if you haven't been following or you haven't been knitting yourself, you haven't seen it before. Last Sunday, we had a perfect day for a photo shoot. So we went down to a beach fairly close to us called Harbour View. And it's really, really pretty beach. And it's almost like there's two very distinct sides. There's, the beach section, it's a very, very deep beach. So you have to walk for like nearly 10 minutes when there's low tide to be even to get to the sea. So it's a very big sandy expanse. Oh, the sound is poor. Sorry. Hang on. You know what I'll do? Let me just pull this all together. There's I'll turn that off. That might be the problem. It's a new speaker that may not be as good. So is that a little bit better? Is the sound a bit better this time? I've just taken it off, which might be safer. I'll just wait for you to let me know. Is that sound okay? Oh, good. Yeah, the new speaker mustn't be working as well as it should, I guess. But yeah, so last Sunday we went to do a photo shoot for the Quilted Feather knit along, and we found the spot. It was Harbour View, and it's almost like 2 different beaches to a certain extent, because you've got the first section, which is a big wide over sand expanse with a lot of old posts and things like that, so kind of interesting backdrop. And then there's a series of sand dunes, but then behind that, there's really low sand dunes and marshes and just a lot of seagrasses. So it's right next to each other, but really different. But we had 2 shawls that we were taking photographs of. So it meant that we could, in the same space, use basically 2 different locations for the 2 different shawls, which worked out pretty well for us. So I'm going to show you the shawls for the first time now. There's obviously several different kits and different yarn types, which is why it was so hard to actually knit just one shawl. So this is one that was knit by Amy. I feel like I need to move back a bit here. Peekaboo Knits on Ravelry, and it is Fino in Admiral, and the second yarn is Carbetho in the butternut color. And so the shawl is, I'm gonna pull this back actually a bit here and give you some space. So the shawl starts at the top here with a little bitty cast on, and it's semicircular, and you've got series of quilted stitch patterns and then another stitch pattern. And this is actually my favorite you've got the butternut all the way along the bottom with the knitted with the knitted bind off. But it is really, really light and really fluffy, and just, yeah, it just was gorgeous to knit up with and to actually even wear in the end. The other one I have is over here, and this version is in our Bloss Delight. So this one here is the Bloss Delight, and it's matched, which is 100% wool, and it's a woolen spun, so very, very light and fluffy. And the fluffy yarn is Cumulus, which is a brushed alpaca and a silk. And again, the edge of this has got that knitted edging on it. So the edging, you cast down across here, and then you work your way down here, working one stitch of the edge with it. And all the way across here, it's got this drop stitch cables, which it takes a little bit to get used to as you're working through it, because initially as you start doing it, it feels very unwieldy having all of these stitches. So there was some really great hints in the knit along that people were using, all sorts of little things they did that were helping, whether it was adding like little stitch savers, you know, kind of to stop your stitches slipping off onto the cable needle so that when they put it down it didn't slide off, or some of the yoga needles where you could twist it together so when you hung it down it didn't come off. Just things like that, any little hints that kind of meant that it made the whole process a lot easier to work. But yes, the edging along here did take a fairly good stretch to work along. And what's incredible is that both me and the sample knitter had like quite a bit of yarn left at the end, so we definitely weren't short. But yeah, I know there's like a few people who are starting to run very low at the end of the very last one. But all it takes is even a slight change in gauge, or where you add a couple of extra rows here along the way, or even a few more stitches, or where if you did your increases, if you ended up with like an extra repeat or something like that, and if it's far enough up and gets multiplied out, or if your gauge is even a little bit looser, it's going to need more yarn to fill the same size. It never ever ceases to amaze me how much in terms of yarn usage, even small differences in gauge or small differences in what's written is created. It does make it very tricky as a designer when I'm trying to put in yarn estimates, because you're towing the line between making sure that someone doesn't end up with like skeins of yarn left over, and on the other hand you want to make sure that people are running out of yarn. And so like normally what we end up doing is we will calculate the sample size that we've done, and then I'll actually add 10% onto that to allow for differences. So even with the 10%, there's still a handful of people who may run out. It just gives you an idea of what considerable variation there is in knitting gauges, which just never ceases to amaze me. So if any of you are on here who've been knitting along on the Quilted Feather Knit Along and either are finished or still going, yeah, chime in here, give us a shout. Let me know what you liked about it, what you found challenging and things like that. One of the best comments that I've seen on Knit Hub, which I just thought was wonderful, is somebody was saying that if it wasn't a mystery, they might have been too intimidated to start, but yet now that it's finished, they're really, really proud of what they've produced, and they look and it's like, I actually did that. And it does make you realize that sometimes if you look at techniques or you look at something that you think is outside your realm of knowledge or ability, that you may bypass something that if you work into it step by step with some support along the way, you can totally do it. You know, that most things can be tackled with a little bit of patience and with a bit of help along the way, for sure. You are almost ready to start Clue 3. Excellent. Well, hopefully some of the tips that have been popping up for Clue 3 will be helpful to you. And I mean, the one that I thought that was really, really useful was the idea of, even if you're using a cable needle to hold the sides of the stitch to be able to stick those stitch savers on so that they can't slip off, was a really good one. Monica, you just finished yours. You need to block it, and you use the edging. You love the edging, and you use the stash for this one. Yeah, it's great when if you've got stash that you like the colors, but that you still don't know what to do with it, and you suddenly find the right project for it. It's like magic. And this one is definitely one that needs blocking, because anytime you do semicircular shawls, because all of the increases are done as a series of steps going down like this, it means that, like before I blocked it, this is the final increase here. Below that, this was like waved across there. So you need to stretch and pin and wet block it, and it's just magic. And then for the end of this, I went ahead and each of these that kind of naturally came down to a point anyway, I just used those to be able to just pull those down and pin those into points as it went along. And I always find with edging, if you're not going to use a wire for a straight edge, which you're not going to on the edge, having something that has a natural dips like that is way easier, because pinning it into a single point is far more achievable than trying to get a straight line or to get a curve where it's not really easy to create a curve with it. Now you have to buy some blocking tools. Yeah, it definitely does require a few blocking tools. I know I use blocking wires with it. They're not essential. It makes it easier because you don't need as much, but they're not essential. I do know that sometimes people with the blocking wires, instead of blocking wires, what they might do is have 2 pins, stick them in each end of the board, and then use like cotton wool, or not cotton wool, like dental floss, something like that, that you tie in each end, tie a taut, and then you can pin onto that. That works really well also. But if you can get blocking wires, it's definitely much, much easier. But that is the end of the Quilted Feather Knit Along. So if you were waiting for the mystery to be revealed, I would suggest jumping in, taking a look at the photographs that we took on Sunday, because they really did turn out very, very nicely. Laura was big help, because she picked the outfits, because you know me, normally I'm in jeans and a pair of boots. I did still keep my boots, and the grey dress was definitely what I usually wear, but she added a little bit of extra oomph into the photo shoot. So I've got a satiny top on as well, just for a bit of fun. We did, however, very unfortunately miss a whole pile of horses on the beach, because when we arrived there was horses running across the back. So we were like running out of the car as fast as we could to get onto the beach so that we could get them in the back of the photographs, but we were just too late. If I had any sense, I'd have just kind of gone over to them and said, just stay there for a second, you'd be great for the photo shoot. But I'm guessing they probably wouldn't have appreciated, but it would have been so much fun, to have them in the background. But yeah, jump into the website, or we'll also post up some more photographs over the rest of the day where you can see the shawl in action. I do have something else very special that I would like to share with you today. It is a collaboration that I've been doing, and we've just got them in, and I was going to save them for a little bit, but I just couldn't resist because they're just so cute. They're a series of knitted linen notions bags that have been created for us by Mr. Kite Designs. Anyone who has been part of the Celtic Knits Club last year, Mr. Kite Designs did these really, really pretty Japanese knot bags for us for the final installment of the club. And so what they've done now is done these linen bags that are, this one's the wrong way around, knitted linen notions bags with just these really fun zips, so bright pops of colour into the side of the linen. The linen is specially spun for them in Ireland, so it's hand spun linen. Well, it's probably not hand spun, but it's linen that is spun in Ireland. And this to me is very much the quintessential Mr. Kite Knittle extra touch, is that if you take a look at some of their designs, they tend to be really good at taking something that is, fairly straightforward, nice, plain, simple linen, and then putting that real pop of color in for a little bit of fun. So if you are interested in these, we've got a really, really small amount of them that we've popped up on the website. You'll see them at the bottom of the homepage, and I'll put them into the newsletter as well this weekend. And there's just the 3 colors for the moment, and we just got a handful to start with. And if you like them, we could always, in the coming months, reorder again. But for now, this is what's there of them. So lots of love to the Mr. Kite Notions bags. So if there's any other questions in relation to the shawl, just pop them up there. If you're still knitting along on it, the Knit Hub is still going on, and I'm not going anywhere. Any questions that come up, any discussions that happen, that can all keep going within the Knit Hub the whole time. So just want to thank you all for meeting me here today. Sorry about the sound being so bad at the start. I will get my old microphone back again. I thought I was being all high tech because I had a wireless one that looked like it was great, but apparently doesn't work so well. So the old wired one, I'm going to have to go back to next week, but it doesn't matter what it looks like once it works, right? Bye everyone.